Greetings, Guardians. This is Olympus Alliance. And today we are talking about something that every single player in this game needs to understand, whether you are just starting your journey or already fighting at the highest level, because there is one hero that quietly fits into almost every situation, one hero that doesn't need massive investment to start delivering value, one hero that scales with your understanding more than with your resources. And that hero is Polaris. Now here's the thing. When people talk about power, they usually think about damage, big numbers, massive bursts, heroes that delete entire teams in seconds, but what many players don't realize is that the real power in this game is not always damage. It's control, it's tempo, it's the ability to decide who plays and who doesn't. And Polaris does exactly that. Because a conversation about control in Hero Wars simply cannot exist without mentioning Polaris, and not just mentioning her, but understanding her, because she is not just another control hero, she is one of the most consistent and oppressive sources of stun in the entire game, and she does it in a way that feels almost unfair when it starts working properly. What makes Polaris so unique is not just that she stuns. It's how often she does it, how she chains those stuns, and how she creates a battlefield where the enemy is constantly interrupted, constantly delayed, and constantly unable to execute their game plan. And it all begins with her obstacle. Because that obstacle is not just a visual element, it's a mechanic that defines the fight. It sits in front of your team, blocking the path, absorbing hits, and more importantly, every time it is struck, Polaris gains energy, and this is where everything starts to snowball. Because now the enemy is not just trying to break through. They are fueling her. They are accelerating her ultimate. They are giving her the resources she needs to control them even more. And once she reaches that ultimate, the cycle begins. A stun across the battlefield. A reset of tempo. A disruption of rhythm. And before the enemy can recover, it starts again. But this is only part of the story. Because Polaris doesn't just rely on one source of control, she adds layers, she stuns the center of the opposing team, she interrupts key positions, and she creates situations where enemies are not just stopped once. They are stopped repeatedly. And this is where her most dangerous mechanic comes into play. Because when Polaris or her allies stun a target that is already stunned, something very important happens. Radiance. And this is not just a visual effect, this is amplification. This is where magic damage starts increasing significantly, where enemies become more vulnerable, where every spell, every ability, every hit from your magic dealers becomes stronger, and suddenly Polaris is not just controlling the fight. She is amplifying it. And that is the moment where players start to realize something. She is not just a support. She is the reason your damage dealers feel stronger. She is the reason your team performs better. She is the hidden force behind the outcome. Because stunned enemies cannot attack. They cannot use skills. They cannot dodge. They cannot react. Their tempo is gone. And when tempo is gone, the fight is already lost. This is not just control. This is domination. This is manipulation of the battlefield. This is forcing the enemy to play your game. Or not play at all. And the most impressive part. She does all of this with minimal investment. This is where Polaris becomes truly special. Because we are not talking about a hero that needs everything maxed to work. We are talking about a hero that starts delivering value just by leveling her skills. A hero that gives you control, energy cycles, and damage amplification without demanding massive resources. And that is why she is one of the most F2P friendly heroes in the game. Because she gives you impact. Early, mid, and late. She fits everywhere. And that is not an exaggeration. Because once you understand her role, you start seeing her differently. You stop asking, does she fit this team? And you start asking, how do I build around her control? Now let's talk synergy. Because Polaris alone is strong. But Polaris with the right partners becomes overwhelming. Take Judge, for example. He doesn't just complement her. He amplifies her. He slows the enemy team, which already disrupts their tempo, but more importantly, his shields protect your formation, allowing Polaris to stay safe and continue her control cycle, and then he adds his own stuns, increasing the frequency of control and expanding the area where enemies are locked down. And now, you are not just controlling the front line. You are controlling the fight. And that is what faction synergy is about. Now bring Orion into the equation. And this is where things start becoming explosive. Because Orion brings magic damage, consistent output, and additional control elements, and suddenly Polaris is no longer just enabling control. She is enabling damage. Her Radiance effect increases magic damage taken, Orion capitalizes on that instantly, and now every stun is not just control. It is a setup for destruction. And this is where Polaris evolves from control hero to damage enabler. Now let's change direction slightly. Because sometimes you don't need faction synergy. Sometimes you need impact. And this is where heroes like Folio come in. With Folio, you are not looking for slow control. You are looking for burst. You are looking for that moment where everything aligns and the entire enemy team collapses at once. And Polaris makes that possible. Because while she is controlling, Folio is preparing. While she is disrupting, he is building. And when that combined attack lands, it ends fights. And this is where you realize something important. Polaris doesn't need to follow one path. She adapts. She fits. She enables different playstyles. And then we bring Iris into the picture. And now we are talking about one of the most dangerous combinations in the game. Because Iris thrives on debuffs. She thrives on enemies being weakened. And Polaris provides exactly that. She stuns. She amplifies magic damage. She creates the perfect environment for Iris to deal massive, unavoidable damage. And together, they break dodge teams. They break tempo. They break expectations. And this is where Polaris reaches her full potential. Because she is not just controlling the fight. She is shaping it. She is deciding how it plays out. And this brings us to the most important tip we can give you. If you take one thing from this video, let it be this. Don't overthink Polaris. Don't try to reinvent her. Don't try to build something complicated. Just invest in her. Level her skills. Let her do her job. Because she fits almost any team. She enables almost any damage dealer. And she gives you something that is incredibly rare. Control that doesn't depend on massive investment. Because at the end of the day, many players think their damage dealers are the reason they win fights. But the reality, the real truth, is that Polaris is the one making them shine. She is the one creating the conditions. She is the one opening the doors. She is the one controlling the fight. And that is why she is not just a good hero. She is a masterpiece. A cheap masterpiece. Accessible. Powerful. Essential. So Guardians, now we want to hear from you. Are you already using Polaris? Have you felt the impact of her control? Or are you still underestimating what she can do? Let us know in the comments. And as always, we will continue bringing you the strategies, the insights, and the tools you need to dominate the battlefield. Stay tuned, stay sharp. And as always, salute and friendship.